One NSYNC band member is one step closer to saying bye-bye-bye to planet Earth.
I mean, ever since I was a kid, I didn't want to be an astronaut. I went to space camp, but then things changed for me, and I ended up going into music.
Hey, I was reading that you're still pretty keen to go off into space.
Yeah, one day. All together. Mommy, may I please go to the moon?
I was always interested in space and space exploration, even as a little kid.
We can make Lance's dream a reality. Lance believes very much that he will fly.
The six planets orbit a star perfectly in sync, which is part of what makes it so rare.
And we hope to have discussions in the next couple of days. We really appreciate the patience of Russian colleagues.
They knew since it was my dream that I would really take it seriously, and I did.
If you're a single man, of course, you'd have sex with an alien, I'd say.
I really can't comment. I don't know. If it comes down to it, if I'm not ready to go, I don't go.
Please do not send any hate or honestly comments of any kind to anyone mentioned in this video on behalf of me or yourself. The purpose of this video is to give my commentary and opinion on matters of public concern. Thank you. The year was 1996. Tickle Me Elmo and the Beanie Babies were causing mass hysteria down at the local shops, and Furby wouldn't come out for 2 more years. And the all-new Mickey Mouse Club, was just still trickling out its last few episodes that it was going to put out of Justin Bieber. Oh, what's his name? Timberlake. They all basically just grown in a cabbage farm. We did do a whole video on that. You should go watch it. Anyway, at that time, Justin's boy band, NSYNC, was in its infancy. It had just started just 1 year prior to that, and they were doing anything and everything they could to get their next big break. Or I guess their first big break, really. Oh yeah, like I said, we did already talk about that in last week's episode, and the NSYNC origin story just don't add up, so make sure to go watch that video. But
you went to space camp.
So 1996 was also important for another reason. It was the first time that I ever personally remember being asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. And when that kindergarten teacher asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I did not hesitate at all whatsoever whenever I said an astronaut. Obviously, that career choice has worked out for me, but obviously, it has not worked out for me, but it turns out I'm not alone in my failed astronaut aspirations. What if I told you that one of the NSYNC's own finest boys, the 5th and final member, actually also wanted to be an astronaut, and he even passed all NASA's tests and trained at a Russian space base for months on end, surviving off Pringles and Reese's cups with no translator, unable to speak or understand a word of Russian, and eventually being threatened with his life for what equaled to a $20 million ransom. I mean, I should probably be saying cosmonaut because y'all are going to be correcting me in the comments, but I just like saying astronaut better, but y'all know what I mean. A person who goes in the ship and goes in orbit or whatever. He was going to possibly work on the International Space Station on a joint mission between the United States and Russia's space forces or whatever. You might find that hard to believe, but apparently it's all true. Let's zoom into the unbelievable but somehow apparently true story of NSYNC's real-life would-be space cowboy, James Lanston Bass. So most people know Lance Bass as the 5th member of NSYNC, the 5th and final member. Like I said, he was the bass singer.
I was in a show choir called Attaché, and we went around the country and competed, and it was the #1 show choir around the world, actually, so it was pretty cool.
Some people also know him as the only openly gay member of Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. Remember that? He came out, it was on the cover of People, Yes, Slay, Pride, Go Queen.
If he wants to be gay, then he can be gay.
It's his business. As long as he doesn't hit on me, we're all right.
I think it's great. People should be proud that they're of their sexuality.
Him. He's the one who almost went to space. And he's the only member of NSYNC who actually openly accused Lou Pearlman of sexual untoward behavior, at least as of 2019, whenever the boy band Con came out.
I was even aware then at 16 that this guy was a pedophile.
He was the only one out there saying that. We did talk about it in the last video. Again, like I said, this is the web. This is a whole series. It all goes ins and out. You don't have to watch the last one before this one though. So don't worry. You're here now. So the band NSYNC hit the height of its fame around 1998 to 2001 era. By 2002, the girls in the newspapers, they were already saying that NSYNC was old and they were over it and nobody cared about NSYNC no more. So basically from 98 to 2001, that was the height.
The boys' families aren't talking about the controversy, but the fans are. On the internet, they've given Pearlman devil horns, and as settlement talks with NSYNC continue, fans have even formed a prayer circle outside of the courthouse.
Please be with them today in the court, and please make them really come out victorious.
And in 2001, that's whenever some of the bandmates started to kind of go their separate ways in their careers. I know it was Justin Timberlake immediately got right quick to the hurry to get his solo career off the ground. Also JC, I don't know what the other two were doing other than just being industry plan. I mean, I really don't know what was going on, but that is around the time that Lance Bass started to get propositioned whether or not he wanted to go to space.
Yeah, a few years later, I got asked to go on a mission with Russia to go to the International Space Station. They wanted to do a flight with the youngest person to ever go to space to kind of really liven up that young generation and really let them start loving math and science more and really looking up to space.
So according to Lance, whoever the they is, were looking for some sort of celebrity somewhere somehow to go to space.
Do you know why it was specifically that they asked you to be a cosmonaut?
They were looking for some kind of celebrity to be able to go. And
now I think this is very interesting because we had already been completely, predictive programmed into putting Lance Bass in space, because apparently, allegedly, he had already said he wanted to go to space. NSYNC had a song called Space Cowboy, Yippee-Ki-Yo, Ki-Yay. He was from Mississippi. He worked for the agricultural choir or whatever he was in. We're totally primed for a space cowboy. We're totally primed for it to be Lance Bass. And also at the time, I think right around that time, they had an album out called Celebrity. And so Lance is like, they wanted to put a celebrity in space. That's his story, his version of it.
And then one day I get a call that there was a company wanting to put me into space to be the youngest person to go to space, to really encourage a younger generation to go into math and science. And
in America, though.
In America, right. But it would be going with Russia because, at that time, no one was going to be going on a shuttle. So we went with Russia, and it was incredible. It was something that, I can't even really describe. It was months of training.
So apparently there were some guys who were going to be producing some type of show on this, like a reality show of sorts, Lance Bass in Space. And the producers of that show who were trying to do that were in an AOL chat room, apparently. I don't believe half the stuff I hear anymore, but this is what they say. This is what they told me on the internet. This is what they told you. This is what they told us. Lance Bass, the producers of some show, they're in a chat room. They're trying to see from the audience, who do you think should go to space? Which celebrity?
There were the producers that were trying to do this. They were in an AOL chat room back in the day, and they were asking the fans, if there's a celebrity that you would like to see to go to space, who would it be? And the majority of the people said Lance Bass. His first dream was to be an astronaut. And so they knew, since it was my dream, that I would really take it seriously, and I did.
And apparently, allegedly, they nominated him. Now, this just reminds me of that time that Lima said that they had nominated Amanda Rabb for a scholarship that wasn't a scholarship.
All right, so Lima, you're back. Last time you were here, you spoke about how we're going to do a scholarship. Is that what you're calling it?
Yes. Yeah.
For somebody that has appeared on my channel.
Yes.
And we talked long and hard about who it could be, and there's lots of people that are good candidates.
And I also asked for comments from your viewers of who they wanted, right? Because the funding is coming from the viewers.
Then when you go look at those comments, it doesn't necessarily seem particularly conclusive, I'll say.
Cool.
All right.
But it kind of just reminds me of that. I'm not saying it has anything to do with each other. I don't know, was Lima even manufactured yet? Who knows? But at that time, they're, in the AOL chat rooms, basically fishing for polls. I'm not sure. Who you want to go to space? We want it to be Lance Bass. Okay, cool. Lance Bass gets nominated to go to space. Also, it's really vague. I'm not really exactly sure. Lance just says he, quote, got asked if he wanted to go to space on a Russian space joint mission. Not really sure, but almost immediately, Lance starts running into some bumps along the road. First and foremost, apparently nobody, according to Lance, even wanted him to go to space.
No one wanted me there, especially at the beginning, and I understand that. I was very young. I'm a pop star, NASA, and I did FOIA request this, and of course y'all know NASA's acting like they can't understand English all of a sudden in the FOIA request. I don't have the FOIA request. If I ever get it, I'll update y'all in the community post, but I did request this record. But according to Lance, the White House received a letter from NASA. NASA sent the White House a letter saying don't send Lance Bass to space because he's too stupid. And he don't know what he's doing. He's going to be bumbling around up there on the space station. NASA did not want me there. In fact, NASA...
Again, I don't know. I didn't get it from the FOIA, but that is what they had said.
In fact, NASA, sent a letter to the White House saying, look, we met with Lance. They thought that I might have, an alcohol or drug problem because, I have this rock star lifestyle and that I don't have the ability to learn how to go to space. So basically I was an idiot.
So anyway, Lance also says that the Russians were more open to the idea of Lance going to space because apparently they wanted the clout and they needed the money.
So they were very against me being over there. Russia was more open because
they knew this would be great for their program. It would bring attention to it.
Somebody was going to be sponsoring Lance to go to space. Like someone's going to be paying Lance Bass's way to go to space. And it was to the tune of about $20 million. Another reason why the people at NASA did not want Lance Bass to go to space is because he was just fresh off the heels of a pop star career. And these people had been working, slaving away at the NASA for however long, and they would never get the opportunity to go to space. And so they were feeling jealous and bitter, which, I mean, I guess that's a powerful motivator, but anyway.
But you could tell a lot of the cosmonauts, didn't think I deserved to be there because, these astronauts, they train years and years and years, and most of them don't even get to fly. So you have this kid come in and be like, oh, in 6 months I get to fly. How fun. So I understand, why they would be a little upset that I'd be over there. But I think after a month or two, I really proved myself.
So then apparently he finally gets through all these rounds. He gets to the Russian space camp thing right outside of Moscow. And he says it was one of the most traumatic, if not the most traumatic, most difficult things he ever went through in his entire life. So here's this article right here where he said it. And he says, an article that came out, I think more recently, he said, it was the most difficult 3 months of his life, being locked up behind a Russian military gate that he couldn't leave, where not even his Russian language teacher spoke English. He also said that they assigned him a translator teacher and she did not speak English. She spoke French and Russian only. And so they basically just dropped Lance Bass, 23 years old, off in the middle of some place outside of Moscow at the Russian space camp, feeding him Pringles and Reese's to survive off of. No one is speaking to him. Everyone thinks he's too stupid to even be there. And he's there for months. Then eventually, some more untoward characters start to enter the chat in the form of holding a Second Amendment device up to Lance's head and asking him, where's the money, but all in due time, we will get to that. Sometime in May 2002, news reports started to circulate that Lance Bass was maybe not going to be going to space, that there had been some hiccups in the contract negotiations, and maybe it wasn't going to pan out all how it was supposed to, which then prompted a 23-year-old Lance Bass in May 2002, June, whenever it was, September, I don't know, we'll put the day right here, to show up and do a press conference or 2 or 3, and he's wearing his little polo and he's got his little, apparently I am good enough for NASA, I don't really know.
I do want to say that, nothing is certain until, I know with any mission, a week before you go up, is when they choose the primary crew. So, like I said, every hour changes, so please bear with us when we don't know any information from time to time.
This all kind of makes me wonder, as a little bit of an aside. Recently, Tucker Carlson did an interview where he interviewed Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, and Vladimir Putin, to my recollection, said something along the lines of, he liked George W. Bush and he was easy to work with.
I had a very good relationship with, say, Bush.
Well, that was who was president right around that exact same time, and I'm wondering if it wasn't, they were working together on this PR, clout chase, space, Lance Bass, space base mission. I don't know. I also do happen to know that right around the exact same time, 1 year prior to, they had just put out Xenon, the girl of the 21st century, so we were all primed to get on a rocket pod and go.
As I was saying, Chelsea Clinton has taken a...
Chelsea's no shit. When I guarantee just tell me Microbe is coming here for the very first rock concert in space.
Supernova girl, if you know what I mean.
Make my heart go, my supernova girl. Make my heart go, my supernova girl.
I don't know. I think everything's a PR push, but what do I really know? I don't know. All I'm saying is this is what he said in the interview. I don't speak Russian. Maybe they fake news translated, girl. I don't know. Nobody spoke English to him. That's weird.
So I didn't get to have fun, and look at me, I'm floating. But my training in Russian was a little weird because they gave me a French teacher to teach me Russian. He spoke no English, so I guess they thought I would learn it faster, but I didn't. But Russian's great. I would definitely suggest, if you're thinking about going into the space field, to speak Russian, because all the NASA astronauts do when they're used to take it. And that's something I had no clue going to Russia. I was like, I'm speaking Russian, but everything, my lectures, everything were completely 100% in Russian. And so it was quite exciting, and it was nice to learn a different culture. Very nice, because up in the International Space Station, it's half Russian, half American, and I have to learn both. On one side of the ISS, it's completely all the Russian segment is different voltage, different everything. The American segment, it's different wattage, all this type of stuff. So you have to learn both. And
It's just the way it is. It's the International Space Station.
Can we get a sample?
Of
Russia? Yes.
So he said that was actually the most traumatizing part of the whole entire thing, was that nobody spoke English to him. So they just threw him out there where nobody was speaking his language. He didn't know if he was going or not going. I mean, it really does sound like a certain high-level type of experiment that they allegedly, supposedly outlawed, but I digress. So Lance is at their press conferences. He basically agrees with the news reports. He's like, yes, there have been some hangups, but the hangups are just simply that we just haven't reached a final deal yet, and I'm letting the, people that are working on that figure that out.
I'm definitely ready to dedicate, all my time for it. I'm going to work extra hard. I think I can take it. I'm excited for the challenge. But, and going back to your first question, I think, the Russian Space Agency has, released a few things, and that's basically because they're telling the truth. They have not gotten a formal proposal from us yet.
I think specifically he might have said they got to put all their ducks in a row. Our good old Mississippi boy.
What can they say when they don't have anything in their hands? And that's what we're waiting on now. We had to get all our ducks in a row before we can submit a formal proposal, which is going out this week, I believe.
So that was in May 2002. And the rocket is supposed to take off in October. So we got a few months yet still to go and negotiate. A couple months later, it's July. And sometime in July, 23-year-old Lance Bass begins cosmonaut training at the Russian space camp outside of Moscow. And the name of the space camp is Star City.
How do you hide an entire city? Well, starting in the 1940s, the Soviet Union hid not just one city, but hundreds of them. These were cities so secret that they were kept off of every official map and had no proper town names. But in 1960, the Soviet Union ordered the creation of a brand new closed city. It was the Cosmonaut Training Center. The small team of cosmonauts moved to Star City, and they only took up one building. It was a tiny operation. Over the 1960s, they built the best space program in the world, at least for a while. During the 1960s, the Soviet Union invested heavily in its cosmonaut program and planned extensively for a lunar landing. Star City itself blossomed into a real town with its own post office, movie theater, a railway station, and a couple of schools. And all of this investment paid off. The Soviet Union not just sent the first satellite into space, but the first dog, the first man, the first woman, and did the first spacewalk.
Like I said, it did all eventually go through, but then right at the last minute, you'll see what happened. Anyway, he was training to be one of only 3 people that were going to be on this 11-day space station thing. They were going to go and do some stuff on the space station, do some experiments, and come back. And like I already mentioned, both NASA and the Russian space, whatever they're called, the Russian NASA, both of them decided and thought that this was a good PR opportunity. But I do think that the astronauts themselves outside of the NASA institution were a little bit jealous or whatever, miffed that, some of them didn't get to have that 1 out of 3 spots on the ship, even though they were trained and all that. So the plan was simple. It was a simple marketing plan. It was supposed to be a win-win-win. NASA and Russia get the positive PR. Lance gets to go to space like he's always wanted to do. They interest, young people like me and you into maybe perhaps wanting to go to space one day. And these corporate sponsors would also get to put their name on the side of the blimp. On the side of the rocket ship, kind of in this Lou Pearlman-esque type of fashion. You remember he was the first person allegedly in the United States to sell advertising space on a blimp. So this would probably be the first, advertising space on a rocket or, something. And the advertising space was a human who was being held ransom for $20 million. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I'm not in marketing. I didn't go to Wharton for the full degree. Okay. So another month goes by or whatever. It's 2 months before they're supposed to leave, August 2002. Here they are. And Lance spends a week in Houston now training with the American side of the NASA team because apparently it's a joint space station. I did not know that. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments. But it's Russia and the United States both of their NASA type things are going to the space thing or whatever. He appears kind of fresh-faced and excited alongside other American crew members in another press conference. And I don't know if it's this one or the one we just saw, but what's with all this Radio Shack all over the damn place? We got Radio Shack, not just the flags up in the back, 2 of them at a NASA Russia space conference, but also somebody has gone out of their way to get it embroidered on Lance Bass's collar, on his mini turtleneck.
Please. The child has been advertising for things since he was in the agriculture band for the Mississippi Agriculture Club or whatever that was. So that's August 29th. But less than 1 week later, like a couple days goes by, September 4th, September 3rd, and it's being announced that Lance is actually not going to get to go to space. And they were having so much fun with the double entendres and the titles of the newspaper articles. Lance has to kiss his space planes bye, bye, bye. They were just going a little bit in on it, and it was a little bit much. But essentially, it seems like it fell through because corporate sponsors were supposed to be paying for Lance Bass to go, and maybe they were not answering Russia's calls. I mean, I also don't believe either one of the sides of the stories, like the sources on either side. I don't believe them. So, I mean, take this all with a grain of salt. I wasn't there. I don't know. But that's the story about the time that Lance Bass almost went to space. Now, there have been some recent developments since that. Like he was on this show, Single Parent or something, and he was being the space camp director, a little tongue-in-cheek reference to that.
Wow, Lance has really toughened up this year.
At the end of the summer, all of you, all together. Mommy, may I please go to the moon?
Also, remember a few years ago whenever they were telling us don't go outside, look at the sun, Donald Trump looked straight at it. It didn't seem nothing to happen to him. I'm gonna tell y'all one follow the experts' advice. Follow the experts' advice, whatever they tell you to do. But yeah, whenever there was like, we had to look at the sun through a hole in the ground and the paper in the church and the skirt and the this and the that and whatever in the hell else was going on. That was so ridiculous in my opinion, but listen to the experts because what do I know? I'm not a space scientist. Anyway, when all that was going on, they had Lance Bass on the YouTube talking about the solar lunar annular eclipse.
Hi eclipse enthusiast, Lance Bass here, and I want to tell you how to protect those eyes and stay safe during a solar eclipse.
And then as I was starting to look into this, I realized based on a clip, and then I kind of dug more into it, that Lance Bass is basically like cousins with Britney Spears.
Which unexpected distant relative is part of Lance's musical family tree? A, Faith Hill. B, Britney Spears.
Oh my goodness, I wish.
Or C, Elvis Presley.
Ooh, those are three good ones. Wait, so that means I'm related to one of these?
Yes. Take your markers and your cards and write in your guess.
I really hope it's Britney, but there's no way.
I want you to turn over your cards. 1, 2, 3.
Elvis? I vote Britney. I hope it's too good to be true.
And the answer is B, Britney Spears.
Are you kidding me? I don't care about losing because this is amazing. I know, I guess you really are the true winner here. Oh my gosh.
And that brought me down a whole nother rabbit hole because I remember getting into a debate, we'll say, on Twitter with Lance Bass's husband about Britney Spears being in a conservatorship. And Lance Bass's husband was basically arguing with me about how it was like okay and fine that Lance never said anything about Britney's enslavement. And now it's come to find out that was also his cousin, not just his homegirl from back in the day whenever they were doing tours or whatever and doing what that was his cousin. And he let that happen to her without saying anything. And then he sent his husband or allowed his husband to argue with me about it online. I mean, that's a whole side story. But that came to mind for sure. And then I think he did a podcast about space. The Last Soviet. About this man, they stranded him in space and he was stuck on the space station. And I don't know what that was, 6 series podcast. That was just last year. Then he went on NPR or something, BBC, somebody somewhere talking about it. And I'm sorry, like, I don't know why they keep trying to push this make Lance Bass in space thing happen, because to me, if it was going to happen, it would have already happened. Like, I'm not more inclined to listen to something about space because it comes from Lance Bass. Y'all tried, it didn't work, try again. Neil deGrasse Tyson, put him back up. Except don't let him act like how he acted on Joe Rogan the last time. That was embarrassing. And speaking of homegrown from Mississippi in the agricultural patch or whatever, come to find out, Lance Bass's great-great-great-granddaddy or something was like the first settler ever of Mississippi or something. So Brittany and Lance share this grandpa in common, we'll say. This great-great-great whoever, Esau Bass.
Hey, how am I related to Britney Spears?
Britney is your 6th cousin once removed.
Mickey Mouse Club, Disney Channel, Blue Pearlman, Johnny Wright, Larry Rudolph connections. Both of them have a common ancestor, and that common ancestor happens to be the first settler of Mississippi.
Boom!
This is look, I wanted to be related to the Queen. Well, now I'm related to the Queen of Pop. That is so crazy though, because I mean, I feel like she's my little sister, and this whole time she's been my little cousin.
She's a bass.
She's a bass. And it makes sense because we were born an hour from each other.
Yeah.
And just wait, there's more. All three have an ancestor in common, and his name is William Bassett. ETT. And come to find out, he's one of the first people off the Mayflower. or something. Plymouth, 1600s. They had Britney Spears and Lance Bass' uncle, cousin Paw, getting off the Mayflower at Plymouth, and then they had them just settling Mississippi just several years later. And now here we are trying to go to space. I don't know, things to think about. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it, bye.
Lance is he's not really that shy. People say he is, but I mean, especially for us, we know he's not.
Lance is, well, he's laid back, very easy to talk to.
Lance is definitely very business-minded.
He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's always thinking about this, that. He's trying to stay one step ahead.
I've actually gone to Lance about some things because he knows his way around. He knows a lot of real important people.
He has actually 2 singers. He has his own kind of management company. He's co-managing with our manager, Johnny Wright.
Lance, it's always, me and Lance are closer to age, so there's more of just an understanding, you know, because we're not as old as the other guys, so we're still learning a lot. We don't know as much as they do.